What if I told you that the woman sitting across from you right now, the one you're casually dating, might be the rarest thing in the modern market? A woman who's actually capable of pair bonding, who values commitment over attention, who sees sex as sacred instead of recreational. And what if you're about to let her slip away because you don't recognize the 7 signs that separate her from the 95% of women who've destroyed their ability to be loyal wives? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to know exactly how to identify a woman worth building an empire with, and more importantly, why losing her would be the biggest mistake of your life. Most men are so conditioned to expect promiscuity, drama, and instability that when they actually encounter a high-quality woman, they don't know what they're looking at. They treat her the same way they treat every other option, casually, with one foot out the door, testing her, playing games. And she quietly walks away and marries someone who recognized her value immediately. Here's the truth that high-value men understand. Genuinely feminine, low body count, marriage-minded women are statistical unicorns in the current dating market. If you find one and you're not moving with intention and clarity, another man who knows what he's looking at will lock her down while you're still swiping and keeping your options open. The brutal reality is this: the window to secure a high-quality woman is narrower than most men think. She's not going to wait around for months while you figure out if she's good enough or keep your options open. She has options too. The difference is she's not entertaining them. She's evaluating you, and the moment she decides you're not serious or you don't recognize her value, she's gone. No drama, no second chances, just gone. And you'll spend the next decade comparing every woman you meet to her and coming up short every single time. Sign 1. She guards her sexual access. Like it's sacred, and treats intimacy as something earned through commitment, not given freely for attention or validation. The first sign you're dealing with a non-promiscuous woman is how she handles the progression towards sex. She's not making you wait to play games or manipulate you. She's waiting because she genuinely believes that sex creates a bond, and she only wants to bond with someone who's proven they're serious. The test here is simple. Does she have clear boundaries around physical intimacy that she communicates calmly and holds firmly? Does she respect herself enough to slow things down, even when the chemistry is intense? Here's why this matters more than almost anything else. A woman who guards sexual access has a fundamentally different psychology than a promiscuous woman. She hasn't trained her brain to separate sex from emotion. She hasn't learned to give her body casually and detach. That means when she finally does sleep with you in the context of real commitment, her oxytocin bonding mechanism works the way nature designed it. She bonds deeply, loyally, exclusively. She doesn't have the database of past comparisons running in her head. You're not competing with 10 other men for space in her attachment system. You're the one. And that level of devotion and loyalty is worth more than 1 million exciting but unstable women who give it up on date 2. Most men completely misread this sign. They think she's prudish, boring, or playing hard to get, so they lose interest and move to easier targets. What they're actually doing is filtering themselves out of access to the highest quality women available. The women who make you wait aren't testing your patience for fun. They're protecting their ability to bond with their future husband. If you can't recognize that and respect it, you're not ready for a real woman anyway. Here's another layer to this. Notice how she talks about sex and relationships in general. A high-quality woman speaks about intimacy with reverence, not casualness. She doesn't make crude jokes, doesn't talk openly about past sexual experiences, doesn't treat her body like a commodity. There's a dignity and self-respect in how she carries herself sexually that's immediately observable if you're paying attention. That dignity is rare because the culture has spent decades telling women that casual sex is empowering and boundaries are oppressive. A woman who rejected that messaging and maintained her standards despite massive social pressure has character and conviction that translates to every area of life. Sign 2. She has long-term friendships and stable family relationships, which reveals her capacity for loyalty and attachment across all domains, not just romantic. Watch how she talks about her childhood friends, her parents, her siblings. Does she maintain deep, consistent relationships over years and decades, or does she cycle through friend groups, cut people off dramatically, and leave chaos in her wake? A non-promiscuous woman typically shows loyalty patterns everywhere in her life, not just in dating. Here's the connection most men miss. A woman's body count and her relational stability are almost always correlated. A woman who's been with 20 men is also usually someone who burns through friendships, has rocky family dynamics, and treats people as disposable. She hasn't learned how to work through conflict, stay committed through difficulty, or value people beyond what they provide in the moment. A woman with a low body count, on the other hand, usually demonstrates the same loyalty in friendships that she shows in relationships. She has friends from high school. She speaks about her parents with respect, even if the relationship isn't perfect. She doesn't ghost people out of her life over minor conflicts. This tells you everything about what she'll be like as a wife. If she's maintained a friendship for 15 years through distance, life changes, and disagreements, she has the character to maintain a marriage through difficulty. If she's still close with family despite inevitable friction, she knows how to forgive, work through problems, and stay committed. Those are the exact traits that predict marital success. A promiscuous woman's life story is usually littered with burned bridges and abandoned relationships. A quality woman's life story shows constancy, loyalty, and depth. Pay attention to how she handles conflict in these relationships too. Does she resolve issues directly and maturely, or does she avoid, explode, or cut people off? A woman who can navigate disagreement with grace and maintain the relationship on the other side is showing you exactly how she'll handle marital conflict. That skill is non-negotiable for long-term success. Sign 3. She doesn't use social media for validation or attention, and you'll barely find evidence of her online presence because she's not seeking male attention from strangers. Check her Instagram, her Facebook, her TikTok. What do you see? If you see a woman posting thirst traps, bikini photos for likes, attention-seeking captions, constant stories documenting every moment for an audience, you're looking at someone who's addicted to external validation. That's a promiscuous mindset, even if her body count is technically low. But if you see minimal posting, private accounts, photos with family and friends rather than solo selfies, and genuine life moments rather than performance, you're seeing a woman who doesn't need the world's approval. This sign reveals her internal locus of validation. A non-promiscuous woman derives her sense of worth from internal values, family, close relationships, and her own character, rather than from how many men are watching her. She's not performing femininity for an audience. She's living it privately. That difference is massive. A woman who needs constant external validation will never be satisfied with just you. She'll always need more eyes, more likes, more proof that she's desired. A woman with internal validation is content being chosen by one high-value man and building a private life of meaning. The practical test is this. Suggest she delete or drastically reduce her social media presence. Does she panic at the thought of losing that attention stream, or does she barely care because it's not central to her identity? A quality woman will either already have minimal presence or will be completely comfortable stepping back because her worth isn't tied to performing for strangers online. There's also a secondary indicator here. Look at who she follows and what content she consumes. If her feed is full of Instagram models, influencers promoting promiscuity, and content celebrating hookup culture, that tells you what she aspires to, even if she's not fully living it yet. A quality woman follows content about homemaking, family, faith, personal development, and traditional values. Her consumption reveals her aspirations, and aspirations eventually become actions. Now here's what you need to understand about the stakes. If you're evaluating a woman and she's showing these first 3 signs, you're looking at someone in the top 5% of available women in the modern dating market. She guards her sexuality, she demonstrates loyalty across all relationships, and she doesn't need external validation. That combination is almost extinct, and if you don't recognize the value and move toward commitment with intention, another man will. Relationship psychologists who study attachment and pair bonding have documented for years that women with these exact traits have the highest marital satisfaction, lowest divorce rates, and deepest capacity for exclusive loyalty. There's a complete framework for evaluating and securing a high-quality woman in the ebook in the description. It's built from what experts know about female psychology, attachment, and long-term compatibility. Get it now if you're serious about not letting the right woman walk away while you're treating her like another casual option. Sign 4. She talks about marriage and family as a goal, not a backup plan, and you can hear in how she speaks that building a family is central to her vision, not something she'll consider if her career doesn't work out. Listen carefully to how she discusses her future. Does she light up talking about being a wife and mother? Does she speak about traditional family structure with genuine desire and respect? Or does she talk about marriage as something that might happen eventually, maybe if she finds someone good enough, after she's done traveling and building her career and living her best life? A non-promiscuous woman sees marriage and motherhood as a calling, not a consolation prize. She's not trying to be a man. She's not trying to prove she can do everything men do. She's comfortable in her femininity and sees her highest value in partnership and family. That doesn't mean she's uneducated or lacks ambition. It means her ambition is directed toward building a thriving family rather than climbing a corporate ladder or collecting experiences. That orientation is rare and precious because it means she'll actually prioritize the relationship and children over her ego and social status. The test here is direct. Ask her about her 10-year vision. If she talks primarily about career achievements, travel goals, and personal accomplishments with family mentioned as an afterthought, she's not oriented toward being a wife. If she talks primarily about the kind of home she wants to build, the kind of mother she wants to be, the kind of partnership she's looking for, and career is mentioned only as support for that vision, you're talking to a woman who's actually ready for what you need. Watch also how she talks about other women's choices. Does she celebrate her friends who got married young and started families? Or does she subtly judge them as having settled or given up their potential? A quality woman respects and admires the traditional path because that's the path she wants. A modern woman looks down on it because she's been programmed to see career and independence as the only valid measures of female success. Sign 5. She respects masculine leadership and doesn't fight you for dominance, which shows she understands polarity and isn't trying to be the man in the relationship. Watch how she responds when you lead. When you make a decision about where to eat, does she follow gracefully or does she contest, negotiate, and try to take control? When you set a boundary or expectation, does she respect it or does she immediately push back and reframe it as you being controlling? When you share your vision and direction, does she ask how she can support it or does she try to redirect it to her preferences? A non-promiscuous woman who's genuinely feminine understands that masculine-feminine polarity requires her to relax into your leadership rather than compete with it. She's not submissive in a broken doormat way. She's cooperative in a strong, confident way. She trusts your judgment, respects your direction, and complements your energy rather than mirrors it. This is the opposite of the modern woman who's been trained to see any male leadership as oppression and who needs to dominate every decision to feel empowered. The significance of this sign cannot be overstated. A woman who fights you for dominance will make every aspect of marriage a negotiation and power struggle. A woman who respects your leadership makes building a family smooth, efficient, and peaceful. You lead, she supports, together you compound. That's how empires are built. And you cannot find this trait in promiscuous women because they've spent years operating without masculine authority, and they've developed an adversarial relationship with male leadership. Here's the advanced test. Give her a challenge or problem and watch what she does. Does she immediately try to solve it herself to prove her capability? Or does she naturally defer to your judgment and ask for your input? A feminine woman isn't trying to prove she doesn't need you. She's comfortable needing you and letting you lead. That comfort with interdependence rather than toxic independence is the foundation of successful traditional marriage. Sign 6. Her past relationships were long-term and she takes accountability for why they ended. Instead of blaming every ex and playing the victim, ask her about her relationship history. How does she describe past boyfriends? If she says every single one was toxic, abusive, or failed her somehow, that's a massive red flag, indicating she's the common denominator. But if she can speak about exes with nuance, acknowledge what she learned, and take some accountability for her role in why things didn't work, you're seeing emotional maturity. More importantly, look at the length and number of her past relationships. A non-promiscuous woman typically has a small number of long-term relationships rather than a long list of short situationships. Maybe she's had 2 or 3 serious boyfriends over 10 years rather than 10 guys over 2 years. That pattern shows she's capable of commitment, investment, and working through difficulty rather than jumping ship when things get hard or boring. This sign reveals whether she has the emotional intelligence and self-awareness required for a successful marriage. Marriage is hard. It requires 2 people who can look inward, take accountability, communicate honestly, and work through conflict without running. A woman who's never taken accountability for any relationship failure is a woman who will blame you for everything that goes wrong in your marriage. A woman who can honestly reflect on her past and her growth is a woman who can build a future with you. Also, pay attention to how long she's been single between relationships. A quality woman usually has gaps where she's been intentionally single, working on herself, healing, growing. A promiscuous woman has almost no gaps because she jumps from relationship to relationship or man to man without ever being alone. The ability to be comfortably single reveals emotional health and self-sufficiency that translates directly to being a stable partner. Sign 7. She's not in a rush to lock you down and lets the relationship develop naturally because she's secure in her value and not desperate. This final sign is counterintuitive but critical. A high-quality, non-promiscuous woman doesn't pressure you for commitment in the first few months. She's not pushing for labels, demanding to meet your family, or trying to force the relationship forward faster than it should naturally progress. Why? Because she's confident that if you're the right man, you'll recognize her value and commit when the time is right. She's not operating from scarcity or panic. Contrast this with women who are desperate to lock down commitment immediately. They're usually hitting the wall, their options are narrowing, and they're trying to secure a man before he discovers who she really is beneath the performance. A quality woman lets you lead the pace because she trusts the process and she trusts herself. She's not going anywhere. She's not entertaining other options. She's building with you at the speed you set because she's genuinely investing, not performing. The test is simple. Does she respect your timeline or does she create pressure and ultimatums? A woman worth marrying gives you the space to choose her freely. A woman who's hiding a promiscuous past or lacks character tries to force your hand before you discover the truth. That patience and security is one of the clearest signs you've found someone genuinely rare and valuable. There's also another dimension to this. Watch how she responds when you do show serious interest and move toward commitment. Does she receive it with grace and appreciation, or does she suddenly become more distant or play games to test you further? A secure woman receives genuine pursuit with openness. An insecure woman sabotages it because she doesn't believe she deserves it or she's addicted to the chase. So now you know the 7 signs. She guards sexual access. She demonstrates loyalty across all relationships. She doesn't seek validation online. She sees family as her primary calling. She respects your leadership. She takes accountability for her past. And she's patient with the relationship progression. If the woman you're dating shows 5 or more of these signs, you need to understand something critical. You're looking at a woman in the top 1 to 2% of the modern dating market. Losing her because you're treating her casually or keeping options open would be catastrophic. Here's exactly what you need to do right now. Get the complete framework from the description that shows you how to evaluate, court, and secure a high-quality woman without making the mistakes that cause her to walk away. Leading relationship experts built this system specifically for high-value men who know they've found someone rare but don't know how to move forward with the right balance of intention and confidence. This isn't manipulation. It's clarity. Get it before you lose her to a man who knows what he's looking at. If you found this valuable, subscribe. This channel exists to give you the truth about female nature and relationship dynamics that the culture actively hides. High-quality women exist. You just need to know how to recognize them and how to deserve them. Final question, have you ever let a high-quality woman slip away because you didn't recognize her value in time? Drop yes or no in comments. Let's see how many men have learned this lesson the hard way.